Cowpea, or beans, is a highly nutritive staple and a major source of protein. It's predominantly produced in Africa, and Nigeria accounts for about 48%, which is about 3.4 million tons of total production, which is estimated at 7.1 million tons. However, the price of beans has surged by 25% to 17,500 naira per bag, per 50 kg bag, from 14,000 naira as at last year. A research analyst at the financial derivatives company, Dumebi Iyeke, joins us now to talk more about the price movement of this staple commodity. Good afternoon, Dumebi. Tell us, what's responsible for this price change that we've seen?
I mean, BC, as at last year, there was no COVID-19 pandemic, and it's not far-fetched to say that the pandemic has really disrupted economic activities across various markets, be it the stock market, the financial market, and very much so the commodities market. Now, bringing this to the domestic commodities market here in Nigeria, there are several factors, both demand and supply, that have affected the price of major commodities like beans. And on the supply side, we have the planting season, we have higher transportation and logistics costs. We also have supply chain disruptions, and this is because cowpea or beans was predominantly produced in the northern region of the country. Now, bringing it to the demand side, there are several things that have affected consumption patterns and demand patterns in the country. Some individuals have lost their jobs, some have had their salary cut, and, schools are not opening, restaurants aren't open. So demand patterns have changed, and, it has really declined. We also consider the fact that people have transitioned from taking snacks and to healthier eating options. So these are some of the factors that have affected or caused the price change in beans.
What about the fact that there's a belief that immune system boosters can reduce COVID-19 infections and fatality rates? Of course, foods that are rich in protein like beans are highly recommended for that purpose. Is it possible that the price of beans could spike on the extra demand by health-conscious consumers?
I mean, BC, we've seen the infection cases of COVID rise so high. I mean, global cases are, over 13 million, with fatalities over 500,000. And here in Nigeria, cases have surged, above 30,000. And, we have fatality rates of about 744 as at this morning. So, yes, there's a fear for, people trying to boost their immune system and make sure that they're not susceptible to the virus. So, but the facts remain that people with compromised immune systems are more susceptible to the virus. And, if you eat meals that are healthy, that are high in vitamin, and, that are immune boosters, there is the fact that, it could help, reduce the chances of you contracting the virus. Or if the individual contracts the virus, it reduces the chances of, a really high fatality. So people have, transitioned to eating, healthier food options. And, taking it back to when the lockdown was, recently imposed, and when Nigeria recorded the index case of the virus, there was panic buying, and we saw an increase in demand for commodities like ginger, garlic, and this is because people perceived that if they consume these commodities that are high in vitamin and high in protein, it would boost their immune system. So if individuals perceive that taking beans will help boost their immune system, we could see an increase in demand for beans, and this would in turn, spike the price of beans.
Now, a potential increase in the demand for beans could be an incentive for farmers to practice crop rotation in favor of beans cultivation and supply. Now, if this were to happen, do you think that the switch to beans by farmers and the apparent shortages of other commodities that are displaced could lead to supply distortions and price volatility in food commodities in general?
Yeah, BC, crop rotation, is widely practiced among farmers, and they do this, to encourage or boost rather the soil quality and reduce pests and diseases, of which legumes like beans are, really used for crop rotation. So the process is that if there was, if a particular landmass or area was used for planting maize, so once that maize is harvested, the farmer could now plant beans. So that's how the crop rotation process goes. And legumes are really used for this particular process because they are high in nitrogen. They give the soil good nitrogen content. So if farmers perceive there's an increased demand for this, a rational supplier would want to increase their supply to satisfy that demand, to meet that demand in the market. But the opportunity cost for making that decision would be a reduction in the supply of other commodities that would be replaced by beans in this particular process. And if this happens, no doubt there could be supply disruptions of these particular commodities in the market, and in turn, there could be price volatilities in the market for various commodities. What will happen for beans is, due to increased supply, the price of beans will reduce, and for the other commodities that are being displaced, what will happen is their prices would increase. So we could have such price, variation and volatilities in the market if this decision comes to play. But the truth of the matter still remains that there is an increasing need for the value-added chain in this particular commodity and other commodities in the agricultural space, so that there's need for increased storage facilities, better storage facilities rather, and the need to improve the production of this particular commodity. So in cases like this, we have enough to cater for the demand. So there is no so that the supply shortages won't create such a wide demand supply gap that prices would spike outrageously.
Maybe Yeke, research analyst at the FDC, thanks for your input on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And back here, President Muhammadu Buhari has sent a special envoy led by Mustafa Chike-Obi to the United States to meet with President Donald Trump over the re-election bid of Akiumi Adesina for the presidency of the African Development Bank. The envoy will discuss the possibility of the U.S. to strongly support Mr. Adesina, who is under investigation for alleged abuse of office. And Tunisia has asked 4 countries to delay the debt repayments as government announced more pessimistic economic and budget forecast for 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Minister for Investment, Slim Azabi, says the government is negotiating with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, France and Italy to push back the payments, and also hopes to arrange a new deal within 4 months with the International Monetary Fund. And that's our show today. Thank you for watching. I am Bisi Adebayo.